Hi class, I hope everyone is doing well. Today we have a lesson on Revolve. Go through the basics of Revolve and what that form and shape means. So we'll be covering Revolve and Revolve cut lesson, importing an image into Solidworks, linear pattern, different types of arcs, and the solid bodies. So if we talk about Revolve, as I mentioned before, anything we have in SolidWorks mimics a manufacturing method. So Revolve is very similar to lathe, like a lathe machine, where you have a center axis here and your part is rotating and you're carving away a profile, right? So the significance of the parts or products that are revolved is that they all have the same center line. Let's see. So for example, this water bottle has a center line. This wooden piece has a center line. Also, this is one of my favorite examples, fruits. All oranges or citruses, they have a center line, and wherever you come in and you cut that form through that center line, you will see a symmetrical shape, no matter where you cut it from. This goes for all of these shapes. You will see a symmetrical shape. The right side and the left side are the same where the center line lies. So all we need to revolve is only one side of the center line. So if this middle piece is our center line, we only need a form that happens to one side, and we usually come in and close that form, and we tell the computer to revolve this as many degrees as we want, maybe 360, 180, etc. So the one thing that you should take away from this, if you see any products, form, or shapes that have a center line, and no matter where you cut it through that center line, you'll see the same form, that product will be modeled with Revolve. And the best example in manufacturing is the lathe machine. This is a subtractive manufacturing process. Basically, we have a large part and then we remove pieces, it's subtractive. And then later on, we can talk about additive as well. So for today's lesson, we're going to be building this honey stick together. If we pay attention to the production of this part's probably a separate stick, and that is another piece, and they've been glued together. So we're going to talk about having separate bodies, especially for manufacturing purposes. This most likely was an extrusion or a lathe, and then they put this later on. Actually, it can't be extrusion. It's definitely a lathe. And this piece has been glued on. So this is part one, and part two. We'll go over building this and taking this image into SolidWorks. I'm using SolidWorks 2024 today. We'll switch to 25 from next week. This is slightly different, but it has all the same things that 2025 has. It's just a layout. We have sketches on a separate tab. Then the features versus on 2025, you have these both on the same tab. If you did ever want this type of tabs, you can always right click on the gray area and go under tabs, and you can turn on any of these. So I have features and sketch on. I also have surfaces on, which we don't need this for this class, so I can turn that off. I have data migration, I don't need that, and so on and so forth. So whatever you don't need, you can basically remove. The things that we'll be using is evaluation, sketch feature, and markup, or as you guys have it, I think it's basic tools. All right, so now we're here. And we're trying to build this honey stick. So we have to choose a plane to start with because we want this to be standing up. We can either go to the front plane or the right plane and sketch. So I'm going to start with the front plane. I'm not turning on all the planes, just to get used to this empty space so you can have room to work. When I go to sketch, and because Revolve starts with an axis of rotation, we always start our revolve with a center line. So under the line tool, the second one is the center line. When I come hover around this until I see my yellow coincident point and go up, that yellow mark, this is a vertical indicator. So I have a vertical line. Then I press ESK on my screen or escape on my keyboard to get out of the tool. So now we want to measure this because we're going to bring in an image and the image will come in based on its pixel size and we have no idea how large it's going to come in. So I'm going to go back and look at my image. This is 6 inches. So I have IPS here. I am correct. I'm in inch mode. I'm going to set my smart dimension, select the line, come to the left or right, doesn't matter. Click one more time and write 6. So now we know this is the size we want to resize our image for. Now to bring in the image, we're going to go under, if you have an arrow here, you can click that arrow and you can pin it down. So usually this allows you to pin down the Solidworks menus. For example, if this is gone, if you drop it and you pin it, it will stay. So we're going to go under tools and find sketch tools, and all the way to the bottom almost, you'll find sketch picture. And it's going to allow you to open up any sketch or any JPEG file, basically. Here, zoom out. This came in super large. We can use this to resize and measure. I like to eyeball things because I want to center this. So anytime you have the blue dots around your image, that means it's in an edit mode. If I press check and those go away, this is stationary, it's not moving anymore. And if I want to edit again, I just need to double click and we can now edit. So first I'm going to make this as small as possible. And I'm going to try to set this on the origin, like center it. Because this is not a perfect side view, I'm going to try to match the side with my line. So I'm going to go slightly up. So basically when we draw our flat line and we revolve, this is what would match. Now, looks like it was too large. Make it smaller. Again, I'm trying to match that point with this line. It is my measuring line, but it's visually helpful. Okay, still too large. So you gotta take your time with this. Make sure you center. Okay, that looks good to me. On the top, yes, this part is on the side. Again, this is not a perfect side view. You can see it's an ellipse. We don't see the line. Now that I'm happy with the image, I want to set it slightly transparent so I can see my models throughout. To do that, we click on full image here, and there's a transparency mode. You can just click little by little to see how much you want it. Usually 0.4 is pretty good. It's like a 40% transparency. And we press check. So now this image is on our front plane. I'm going to finish the sketch and come out. This will become our guide. So I will click on the sketch and rename it as picture. So I will not come to this sketch by mistake and try to draw on it. So this always stays the guide for us. All right. See, here we go. Now I'm going to go on the front plane one more time. And once I have the front plane selected, once again, I'm going to go to sketch. This is where you need to pay attention. This is sketch 2. I am not in my first image sketch. I can still see my image, but I'm not there. So make sure you have a secondary sketch that you are starting. Okay. So now we're going to come in and try to create this centerpiece because we talked about these two being two separate parts. So this could be pretty simple. We could actually just draw a rectangle and a couple of circles. So I'm going to use a corner rectangle, go to my origin. I don't know how far this goes up, but I know this has to connect inside somewhere. So I'm just going to go up. And I need to measure this to this edge. So I believe there's a measurement. There is not. On the top, there is for 1 inch. Let's see. It says 0.16. I'm thinking if it's a quarter inch, let's write 0.25 divided by 2. I'm guessing this. I'm slightly off. So maybe 0.15. 1.5. That looks better. So 0.15, and I need this to go inside a bit. The whole thing is 6 inches, so let's do 5.5. Let's say they glue that part in there. Okay. So now that we have our rectangle, this will create our stick, right? Now I want to come in and remove these parts. So I'm going to show you guys a different way to do these. So I'm going to put in 4 circles, trying my best to center it. Then it will select all of these circles. Oh, it doesn't let me select. Okay, here we go. I was inside the image, if that's why. So I'm going to set all of these equal to each other. And now I only need to measure 1. So this is 0.07. Let's try. It's better to round things off with 0.07. So all of those adjusted. I think maybe 0.05 is better. Yeah, maybe it's too small, 0.06. Okay. Then I need to also have measurements from the center to the base. This is 0.54. And then from here to here, I'm going to say it's a point. I'm going to try a 0.2. No. 0.25. 0.23. That's better. So whatever this is, between these two, I'm going to set the same thing. So that's also going to be 0.23. And from here to here, 0.36. If your measurement's slightly different, that's okay. I'm at the same time trying to match this image. Okay, so now the whole sketch is black, is fully defined. I'm going to take this to the other side because that's the diameter. And try to clean up your measurements, try to align them so it's easy for somebody else to read what you've done. And usually the measurements, the smaller ones are the inside, the larger one come on the outside, and you try to line them up. I could come in with my trim tool and cut these up, but we don't need to. I'm going to leave them because now I've already measured these. So we're going to go to the features, or you have a drop down menu on your extrude boss. Then you can find Revolve. So the first thing the Revolve asks you is axis of revolution. So which one is your center line? So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click this midpoint or this line. There we go. And it will kind of preview in yellow. What would that look like? If we pay attention, it did not do anything with these circles. It almost ignored it, right? Reason is we have multiple closed paths in the sketch. So we have to tell Solidworks which ones we want and which ones we do not want. To do so, we go under selected contours, click that. And here, inside of any piece you go, inside the area, it turns yellow, it turns red. So, for example, if I want this, I can select it. I need to select both sides, right? And it will add it to my piece, right? So you can basically pick exactly what you want. I can actually remove that middle part if I don't want it, and it's just rings, right? So now let's talk about what we do want. We want this middle portion, and we do not want those. So we're just going to pick this, and you can see it has the removed pieces. Let's say check. Now we have our stick. Very good. I know it's tempting to come in and fill it right now, but we'll wait all the way to the end and we fill it everything at the end. So we partially have our stick, or our honey stick. Now we need to do the top portion. One more time, we'll go to front plane, do a sketch. This time, you see how this is kind of covering my view? I can't always come to a section view. Let's see if that helps. And it kind of pushes that built on the back side so I can actually see the image better. So I'm now on the sketch 3. I am not in the picture. I am not in my sketch for the Revolve. It's a whole new sketch and feature. We're going to start with a line tool. So I'm going to look at where this ellipse ends, right? The center of it. And I'm going to start a horizontal line to that point. Okay, so I know this needs to fit inside of my top piece. So I'm just gonna, there's two ways I can do this. I can pick this line and that line and do an offset. Gonna do it. We may not do it because we don't really have an edge. We are actually picking part of a cylinder. So if it doesn't do it, I'm just going to convert. Let's see if it does convert. No, it doesn't. So we have to go the longer way. So we basically have to just draw and come and measure. I'm going to go all the way to the top. And so this is very much taller than I need. Again, I'm going to try to hit the top of the basically major axis of the ellipse because this is under perspective. All right, now we need to come in and get this gap similar. So 0.01. And from here, it did not do that. One thing we could do is now measure from the center, from here to here. It was a 0.15, remember? So now we do 0.16. So that gives us that 0.1 spacing. This It is very common if you go in the center and you pick that dot, it doesn't measure anything. For example, here. It happens. So just you have to press escape to deselect that dot. 0.25. I'm trying to round things off. Okay, and here 0.4. Okay. Now, from here to here, we have a curvature, right? So as you can see in this profile, it's a nicer curvature. Here again, we're looking at perspective and we have drops. So here we can see it's a nice arc. So under the arc tools, we have three types of arc. An arc is part of a circle. So let's review these. The first one is a center arc. So basically you click the center, you click one side of the arc and the second part. So this is when you know where your center is. You'll use this arc. Now the second option is a tangent arc. So for example, you have a line. I'm just going to use this line for now. You have a line and you want to be tangent to that line. So you start there. This doesn't do tangency. So you basically start there and you can kind of end there. Actually, usually if we do a tangency, you can select both of these and say tangent. This is very different, so that's why I can't do it. See. Maybe tangencies? No. So I usually use the 3-point arc. This you have basically control over the radius, even though you don't know where the center is. And you can kind of manipulate it like a spline. So if I get rid of these, pressing delete on my keyboard. Here's a 3-point arc. So start with the start point, end point, and then you can basically match your curve to whatever you want. This is a lot simpler arc to use out of all the three. And you kind of can basically use it as a spline because it's harder to measure splines, but arcs are much easier. So I'll go to the 3-point arc. I have my start point, I have my end point, and now all I need to do is kind of try to match this curvature. Seems slightly different, but I'm looking at this, and if we're knowing this is a late, we know this has to be the same arc. So now we have our closed shape, but we still have some blue lines. I need to come measure my arc. See, we still have some blue lines. If you don't know why you have a blue line, you can always move things around. So right now we have nothing connecting to the origin. So I think the whole thing can move up and down. We can test that. Let's see. This part moves up and down, right? Then Control Z on that. And measure this to the origin. And everything should turn black. Okay, so now we have our second portion. As you notice, I did not try to build the cutouts. So we're going to come back with a revolve cut and get all of those. So let's revolve this. Feature revolve. Again, first question is what is the center line? We pick it and it creates our piece. Let's check. Okay, remember we are on a section view, so we're only looking at half of this. Okay, now we're gonna go back, create another revolve. I am doing this on a longer version, much longer, so you guys get to see all the features. Okay, oh, something that I wanted to mention to you guys. So if I grab the sideline and go here, and we have our stick. And as you can see, the solid body is one, revolve one. And then the second one, we added, the second part shows up as revolve two. One of the reasons that this is doing that automatically is because these two don't touch. So we have a gap here. If they were touching, it would automatically combine them and make them into one solid body. However, if you have something that's touching, but you still want it to be separate, when you build your feature, you can just uncheck the merge. So merge means connect, combine. If you uncheck that, it will make its own separate body. All right. So now we'll go back to the front plane and sketch. This time, we also need to be in a section view. Let's check. So I'm going to create rectangles, at least probably just one rectangle. And then we're gonna go upward with a pattern. So let's test the cut first. Again, I need to start from kind of the end of the ellipse. I can somewhat see. This is my gap line, right? So we need a little bit of wood for this to be sturdy and straight, right? And strong. And I'm in this point of the ellipse and on the corner of this ellipse. So that's how I'm measuring and putting this piece down. Now I'm going to measure to the center line. Again, try to round things off, 0.3. This doesn't really matter as long as you come out, and I'm trying to come out of all of these because I'm patterning. So maybe 0.3 on this one too. It gets bigger, it's okay. We don't have the height yet. So here to the origin, 4.96. I'm going to leave that, let that be because I'm matching it with these corners. And also this one, let's try 0.1. So it's rounded off. Everything is black. So now that we have one, rather than building each of these, because everything looks same thickness, we're going to pattern this upward. So if you look for linear pattern, you can select that. And linear pattern stands for patterning in a line format. Basically, x-axis is one line, which goes flat, right to left, and y-axis goes vertically. So right now it's giving us x-axis and number of patterning is 2. We don't want that, so I'm going to go back to 1 here. Then go all the way to the end where it says entities to pattern. Highlight this box and pick all the lines that we want to pattern. So there's 4 lines here. And on the y-axis, rather than 1, we're going to go up. Or as you can see, there is preview showing up. These are super close to each other, so I need to change the distance slightly. Don't know exactly how much yet, but first let's match the number of cavities. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we've set up for 5. That's good. So we can see the gap is not correct. Probably needs to go up a little bit more. Maybe 0.25. That was too much. Maybe 0.23. A little bit less. 2. So again, I'm looking at this corner and this corner. 0.21 maybe. Okay, that looks about right. You can see this is at the corner, that's at the corner. It could be slightly less, but we still need to match that one. Okay, we press check and all of these show up. So as you notice, my first box is black, but the rest are not. That's because that 0.21 also needs to be measured here. 0.11 needs to be measured here, and everything turns black. So now that we have this, we want to revolve cut. Just as a safety measure, I'm going to add a center line because we've been using our image center line. So we're going to revolve cut that form with this. See. I think this gap for that top piece doesn't look perfect. Might have to come and update that piece because now you can see this is really small. These are a lot thicker. I may need to make this piece larger later. So that's okay. We can always edit. I'll go to the features. If you can go under your extrude cut and find revolve cut. I'm gonna pick this. First thing is asking is the axis. I had it selected, so I automatically picked it. And you can see it's trying to cut. Always rotate your view so you can view what's happening in the feature. And press check. Says feature rebuild. Oh, here's the issue. So it doesn't know which body to cut. Remember we had two bodies? We had this one and this one. So right now it doesn't know what we want to cut. But the reality is we can only cut this one because our lines won't even touch this one. So we're going to go to the selected bodies to turn off auto select, and we're going to pick this body. So now we know it's only cutting that revolve too. All right, now we have that. So I don't like this tip on the top portion is not same height as the rest of them. To edit that, I'm just going to go to my Revolve 2, edit sketch. And because we measured everything, this shouldn't be that hard. So I'm going to try to do 0.45, kind of push that up a bit. Maybe even more, 0.46. Let's check that. I think it still needs more. 0.48. Let's try that. Maybe 0.5. Okay, that looks much better. Again, we're going off an image. We don't have perfect. Actually, we do have some dimensions on the top and the bottom. It's 1.16 inch for the height. I can come back and remeasure that. And it's 0.96. So that's also not perfect. It's not a 1 inch. But we can always go back and measure it to this. So 0.16, the largest portion of this stick. Okay. See, now I could go back and just check slightly what do we have. I'm curious how close we are because we did resize an image. This will be a redundant sizing. We have 1.15, so we're very close actually to that piece. And then on the top, here we have 0.4. This should be 4.8 probably. It should be wide. Actually, the widest point is 4.8. I think it's perfect. Let's now go through our fillets. Because we have two separate bodies here, we can see still. That's our first body and second body. We can fillet the hard edges on the first body together and fillet the other body together. So you cannot combine your fillets. And we're going to start with the first body. As soon as I click this edge, if your full preview is on, it will show how big that fillet is. It seems too big. Maybe do a 0.05. was trying to show you guys the shortcut, but did not show up. I can also pick this faces, at least that automatically does both sides. I feel like this bottom, maybe I need to come and redo this portion. Seems a lot more round, or I can come with like a really large fillet and round it off. So that's that, and because it's a separate radius, I'm going to come, oh, too much, maybe 0.1. That seems better. 0.08. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So we don't see the inside, but if you're fitting something in another piece, I'm gonna hide this part so I can see that. You definitely need to also round this off so you can kind of fit this piece into the other one. So I'll go to my last fillet and I'm gonna edit that because that was this end, right? So I'm also gonna do this end. There's gonna be the same curvature. There's no need to create a new fillet. All right, now this piece is done. We're gonna go to our, show this one and start filleting this. Let's see. Yeah, it's not showing me shortcuts. So usually on the side, this should come up a small shortcut menu that you can pick all the edges or all the surfaces or all of that. It's 2.02. This should be much smaller. So I'm gonna just pick faces. Each face that you select, it connects to two edges, so it will automatically do those edges. I can also pick this internal faces. So I'm basically rounding everything together. I'm gonna hide my image so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. Looks like I got everything. Let's check. All right. And if you click the eye again, the image, or if you have planes, they'll show up. Seems good. We have two bodies, two parts, and if you guys really like to, you can add appearance to this. So go to the round colorful ball, open appearances and organic. I think wood will be under organic. Here we go. And reach maybe. So I can drop this. It asks me if I want to drop it on the face, on the feature, or on the body. So I'm just gonna put it, or on the part. I'm actually gonna put it on the whole part. We usually don't add appearances. We're gonna go to Keyshot to learn to do that, but this is just to visually separate parts, you could add color. Another thing I want to show you guys, this will be for your homework. Under your tree, there's materials here. So the appearance is just color. It's not actual reality of material. This is material that you add to your form. So you can click on edit material. And here we have steel, iron, etc., etc. Let's see, we have wood. So I'm gonna add, let's see, maple. Maybe they use maple and then click apply. And what happens is now the weight and density of this material is gonna change, or this form. So if I go to evaluate and find mass properties, we can see the mass, the weight of this part. Now it's 0.02 pounds, right? So it should be super light because it is something that you mix with. All right, that's about it. Hope everything was clear. Make sure you save your file and see you in another lesson.